It's so good. And it even made me going back to my murder stuff. So I've always been very hesitant about going on a cruise because it's a really great place to get murdered, and like an open
Mm,
sea, there's a lot of different rules around jurisdiction if anyone follows true crime.
yeah.
I didn't think about it once while reading this. That's how good the story was. I wasn't like, oh, well, Nikolai, I mean, he might push her over the edge, and then there's no jurisdiction there.
Right.
Um,
That sounds so ridiculous, but I totally get it. Like, that is high praise.
I didn't think about the murder opportunities once on the cruise, which all my friends listening to this, because you will be, you know that I talk about murderers on cruises probably far more than the average person.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Same Page. If you don't already know me, I'm your host, Jenna Clausen, lover of books, sympathizer of book-to-movie adaptations, and owner of an embarrassingly long TBR list. Each month, I'll be bringing on a bookish friend or two to discuss some of our current and favorite books, as well as a few recent binge watches, and to share in a buddy read. Grab a drink, join the discussion, and let's find out if we're on the same page. Trigger warnings for the book that we'll be discussing in today's episode include loss of a parent due to illness, abusive relationships, and general themes of the patriarchy. Please keep that in mind while you're listening and if you read the book. My guest today is my friend Arianna, although she's better known on Bookstagram as Arianna Reads. In addition to her almost 2 years and 5,000 followers there, Arianna leads the Read Can Lit Book Club, where readers from across the globe get together each month to read and discuss books of all genres written by Canadian authors. You can find all of her social media information, as well as where to follow her, down in the show notes. And with that, let's jump on into the episode. All right. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for coming back for a second week for our book discussion.
Thank you so much for having me.
I haven't fully scared anyone away after the first episode yet. I'm waiting for one day someone's going to say, you know what, this was fun.
Goodbye.
Yeah, right. Y'all have fun with that. So, anyone listening, we have Miss Arianna back again today. Very excited. And we are going to be discussing Shipped. And before I get a little bit, she has her Kindle. Before I go and give the publication info again like I did last week, do you want to start us off with what you're drinking?
Absolutely. So I am drinking a nice glass of Prosecco.
Oh my gosh, she fancy. Look at that
I
glass.
decided to go all fancy with one of my favorite special occasion glasses.
It is so pretty.
It was an engagement gift, so it is a very nice glass. I love it. It makes the Prosecco taste more delicious. So figured we have a nice bubbly, happy book, and I figured I'd pair it up with a nice bubbly beverage.
I love that. I did warn her. I was like, by the way, I'm going for an adult bevy today. So I have rosé. I am also using one of my favorite glasses, actually. It's not like one of my big, super fancy glasses, but do you know Caitlin, the at Stacked Shelf?
Yes.
I could not think of what her
name.
Instagram username was for a second. She and her husband are like best friends with my husband. And so when they were in Texas, we did a wine tasting with them and went to this winery. And so I have one of the glasses from the winery.
Love that.
Yeah, it's one of my faves. Oh, you're frozen.
I know. I've lost you.
Oh,
I'm
no.
having. I saw the wine glass and then I'm
It
not
was just
responding.
our glasses were so good and so fancy. We broke the Zoom call.
All right. I'll try that again.
Right.
I only do this for a living. You think my computer would work?
Oh, no. Yeah, no, it's okay. For the person who is in charge of the podcast and the recording and the editing of the podcast, my computer really does not like doing things related to video. So I get it. It's okay. Maybe some early on technical difficulties means everything else will be really smooth.
Exactly.
All right, so jumping back into it, we have our drinks. So let's talk rom-coms. We, again, show it here, are talking about Shipped by Angie. Goodness, my brain. I swear, I haven't even had any of my wine yet. By Angie Hockman. Publisher is Gallery Books, copyright year 2021, and the paperback copy I have is 321 pages. And this one, just really quickly read the back cover again. It says, between classes for her MBA and her job at a cruise line, marketing manager Henley Evans barely has time for herself. But when she's shortlisted for her dream promotion, all her sacrifices finally seem worth it. The only problem? Graham Crawford Collins, which is very hard to say in my head. It's like a tongue twister for me for some reason. Graham Crawford Collins, the off-site social media manager and the bane of her existence, is also up for the promotion. Although they've never met in person, their epic email battles are the stuff of legend. Their boss tasks each of them with drafting a proposal on boosting bookings in the Galapagos. Best proposal wins the promotion. There's just one catch. They have to go on a company cruise to the Galapagos Islands together. Bum, bum, bum. But when they meet on the ship, Henley is shocked to discover that Graham is nothing like she imagined. And soon the line between liking and loathing is thinner than a postcard. With her career dreams in sight and a growing attraction to the competition, Henley begins questioning her life choices, because what's the point of working all the time if you never actually live? This book was so cute. Really quickly, I just threw my pencil on the floor. I'm just a hot mess express today. I know you did kind of in-depth last week. Do you want to give us a Spark Notes version again of why you chose this one?
Yeah, I was in the mood for a rom-com, being February in the month of love. I loved them with strong female characters.
Mm-hmm.
The marketing manager connected to me on a personal level, career-wise, and I love the fact that it had travel involved in it too. Because we're not traveling
we need to
anywhere.
Soak up all the travel stories that we can.
Yeah.
Right now.
So it hit those rom-com buttons for me, and it was exactly what I was in the mood for.
I was telling my husband about it, and he just goes, oh my gosh, how is this not a Hallmark movie yet?
It needs to be a movie.
Right? It would be so cute. I would totally watch it, and I would make my husband watch it, and he would love it. I don't know about you, but I'm a sucker for a cheesy Hallmark movie.
Love them.
So.
Can't get enough.
They're just so good. And again, kind of like we were saying last week, it's such a nice break from the murder documentaries every once in a while.
Yeah.
Throw in just a really cheesy rom-com. Although I did not end up watching Clueless last week, and I still want to. So I may make my husband watch Clueless later.
I didn't either. I started Behind Her Eyes, so more murder.
Ooh. I've heard that is really good. I feel like I need to not watch it until I read the book, though, because the book is on my list.
Yes.
So I'm trying to... That one and, what's it called? Firefly Lane. I'm like, no, I haven't read the book. I'm not going to watch it yet. trying to put my foot down. Anyway, the book that we are talking about this week. So, overall, what were your thoughts? Did you love it as much as you were hoping to?
I totally did. It was exactly what I was in the mood for, and it hit all the marks, and I just enjoyed it from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Total win for me.
I did too. So last week we were talking about binge-worthy reads. I binged this book. I read this book in 2 sittings. It was just so cute. And I was talking to my husband about it. And when we talk about the ending a little bit later in the episode, I'll talk kind of about why. But I had... The first day that I was reading it, I read 2/3 of it. So I read to 2:15, 2:20 or something. And so I only had 100 pages left. And my husband was talking to me about it before he was going to go run errands, and I was like, yeah, it's super cute, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of what's happening. I'm really enjoying it. And then that was it. That was the end of the discussion. And then he came home and was trying to talk to me, and I was in the last, 40 pages probably, and I kept yelling at him, and I'm like, I need you to leave me the fuck alone right now. You do not understand. He was like, okay, you did not have this strong of feelings when I left. I'm like, I'm sorry, but the last 100 pages really did it for me.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the end, and we'll talk more about the ending, but I feel like it took it up a level.
It did.
And it added that substance. It added that.
It was so good.
I won't give away because I know we're going to talk about my favorite scene, which is in the ending. Well, not the very end, but in that latter half. And it just took
I could not
and
choose.
elevated
I wrote
it.
down 4 or 5 favorite scenes.
It was hard, but I did narrow.
Yeah.
I kept on going back to one, so that's the one I'll talk about. But
that's fair. Yeah, one of mine is right close to the end too. Well, two. Two of mine are pretty close to the end. So yeah, we will do our best. It seems like we're both pretty excited to get to the ending, so we will try. It's possible we won't make it, but we will try to save most of that for closer to the end. Do you want to start with, was there anything that surprised you about the book, or was I wasn't expecting this. This is so nice, or anything like that?
I wasn't expecting it to have as much girl power as it did, and I loved that. Because normally, I kind of going back to the ending, but normally you find a lot of the times that the women get saved, and in this time,
and especially in these
herself.
Really fun kind of cheesy rom-com type stories,
yeah,
it's a lot of someone coming in and saving the day. And they even make a joke about that near the end. Oh my gosh. Okay. We need to get into this.
And I also wasn't expecting the tie-in to the environment.
Yeah.
And giving back and the whole CSR element there. So that was a pleasant surprise. I knew we were getting travel, but I didn't know we were going to get that exploration of elevating that ecotourism and making sure that we're being sustainable when we're doing things, which I thought was a really unique take on the cruise ship industry, which is a big resource drain.
Yeah, that surprised me a lot too, and I really liked that. It's one of those things where, like you said, she's traveling, she's on a cruise ship, she works for the cruise company. It would have been very easy for her to include it as far as connecting it to the story, but it also would have been much easier for her not to include, and that's would have more likely been the case. So I liked that a lot too. For me, I did not know that it mostly takes place on the cruise, but her hometown is Seattle, and I didn't know that, and so that was just very fun for me. I love it's kind of, I guess, you're watching a movie and it's set in your city and you're like, oh my gosh, I used to go to that corner store, whatever. Reading books that are set in Seattle are just very, very close to my heart. And especially, I've been feeling a little homesick, so that was a really nice surprise for me.
Nice.
And then the bigger one was her sister being such a big part of the story.
Yeah.
She's not mentioned at all in the back cover, not even as a side and with her sister in town causing mischief, this is a bad time for this cruise, or anything like that. She's not mentioned at all. And so it was just really sweet. I loved their relationship a lot.
Oh, especially as it builds.
I know.
And when she realizes at the end. Sorry, we're going back to the end.
I know. That last 100 pages was just, it was so good.
So good. And for some reason, I don't know if it's the name, and I made this up completely in my head, but maybe also because of whole rom-com conventions, I was expecting Graham to be English for some reason. I think it's the double fancy last name.
Yeah.
Nowhere did it say
double
any
last names, and Graham is, at least in my head, very British. That might just be because of the holiday, now that I think about it.
But absolutely nowhere in any promotions or any reviews did anyone mention that. That was completely all in my head.
I love that. Sounds like something I would do. Yeah, I guess I kind of, in the first few chapters kind of imagined him as this kind of posh
very stuffy
guy too.
yeah like,
and he is not. Spoiler
no
alert.
and I loved who he was, but I just made this up in my head going into it.
So do you want to start us off with who your favorite character was?
Okay, I'm not going to be super original. I loved Henley.
I did too.
She was my favorite. I'm gonna go for the obvious, but
I mean, it's hard not to fall in love with the hero of a book that you enjoy, you know?
And she didn't annoy me the way a lot of sometimes female protagonists can, where you want to shake them on the head. I feel like she was good at shaking herself and saying, okay, wait a second. You made up the fact that Graham is horrible in your head, like I made up the fact that he was English. And she was able to talk through those processes herself, where I find sometimes as a reader, I'm the one saying, clue in. She was able to do that.
Pay attention to your surroundings. Yeah.
Like when she actually went and found out whether he'd gotten a new phone or not.
Oh my gosh, I loved that.
I loved that because it was so in character for her, because she needed that proof. It's like, you know what? Maybe I am making this up, but I want real proof that
so basically,
he may have had technical difficulties like we did earlier.
Right. Oh gosh. We're just keeping on theme with the book.
Totally.
Jump into the story a little bit here. Basically, the beginning is what you would expect. She finds out she's up for this promotion. So is this guy that she hates. And they have this really, like, sassy banter moment over, like, their in-work messaging thing. And then her sister shows up, and she's like, oh my gosh, my sister's a hot mess. Why are you here? I have to go on this cruise. This is terrible. Her boss is a dick and is always sweethearting her and talking over her in meetings. We will get to him when we talk about the ending too. But even at this point, I turned to my husband and I was like, her boss just called her sweetheart in a meeting and I want to punch something. Like, I was so mad.
And he had Graham on speakerphone without telling her.
Well,
he's laying out all of those things. Oh my gosh.
And so he's like, yeah, you're up for the promotion, sweetheart, gross words. But also don't worry your pretty little head, or like don't get too focused on her, or whatever terrible things he was saying. And then she heard a sound, and it turned out Graham had been on speakerphone the whole time. And he didn't announce himself, and James, the boss, didn't say that he was there. It was gross.
Yep.
And then getting into what you were saying, the reason that she first started this, like, hatred for Graham is because he works remotely, and so he's always in their work meetings, either by like Skype or Zoom or just on speakerphone. And one of these meetings, basically she had put a video together for him to post on the social media, and then it went viral. And in this meeting, James, the boss, was like, wow, Graham, you did so good on that. Henley, you should take initiative like Graham did. And he didn't say anything. There was a pause, and then he said thank you. And so this whole time she's like, he took credit for my viral video, and he never says thank you in his emails. He's a jerk.
I had to laugh at part of that because I've always worked in very corporate environments, and actually within the I'm an event planner, so a little and a marketer, so a little bit of this connected back to me personally as well.
Yeah.
But I was also told at my first job not to send thank you emails ever, just for the sake if you can say thank you in an email, but never send an email that just says thank you, because you're just clogging up an inbox.
Interesting.
So I thought about
That's
that.
That's funny. I mean, that makes sense, I guess.
Kind of unrelated. But I also love the fact that she was in this he was her big nemesis. It was this giant war, but it was totally one-sided.
Yeah. It's like all the movies or whatever when it's like, we were rivals in high school, and the other person's like, we
Who
were?
are you?
I'm so weird. I was not aware of this
Yeah.
big tension that we had. Um, but then once they're on the cruise, and no spoiler here, they start wanting to smooch, and like they find each other very charming. He's like, oh my god, why do you hate me so much? I do not know what I did to you. And she tells him this story about the meeting and him taking credit for her work. And he goes, oh my gosh, was it within the first month or two of me working there? And she goes, yeah, it was. And he goes, okay, my phone didn't work, and so I didn't hear a thing he said. And should I have said that I didn't hear him? Probably, but I didn't. And then I got a new phone later, so I could actually hear people. And yeah, she reaches out to one of her friends back in the office and was like, hey, totally unrelated to anything, but I need you to reach out to someone in IT and see if Graham got a new phone 2 months after he started. Which was so funny to me.
I loved
like
it.
you said, it just seemed so in character, and I was like, yeah, that's something I would want to do, but I wouldn't quite have the balls to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was just so good for me. For me, I also put Henley because she's so cool and she's so funny. And again, moments like that where I'm like, yeah, okay, that is something I would have wanted to do, but wouldn't have been brave enough to do. I just loved those moments. But I also put Walsh, her sister. I really like her in general, but then their relationship is just so good, and I had to include her.
And I was not expecting, again, back to the end, I was not expecting all those layers with what Walsh was dealing with and how that connected to Henley's kind of insular focus on her career and where she was and just their I don't have a sister. I've always wanted one. I love you, brother, in case you're listening. I told you to, but you probably won't. But that sister relationship has always been something so interesting to me, and
Me
just
too.
seeing that.
I have 2 older brothers, and I always wanted a sister. I was always trying to like claim their girlfriends as my sisters, and well, 3. I have another sort of brother, a brother of my heart, not of my blood. And he got married when I was pretty young. And so I've always been like, you are my sister now, and you just have to put up with it. And she's like, okay. And now my husband has sisters, so I'm like, yes! I'm like trying to collect them.
Yeah. And how cool are their names, Henley and Walsh? I know we got like the background on Henley's name, like Henley Rose, but I loved it. They're cool without being obnoxious.
Yeah, it's cool without seeming like their parents like threw Scrabble tiles at the wall and were like, this is what it's gonna be now. They make sense. Yeah, we didn't really get that background with her. I'm really hoping there will be a second book about Walsh.
I would love, because I can't talk without talking about the ending, but I would love to see what happens.
We'll get there. Our love for Walsh can wait.
Yeah, I would love to see her story. Oh my gosh, that scene when she does yoga.
I loved that. It's my like cackle. I loved that. So going a little bit forward in the story, I'm just kind of gonna skim and give a SparkNotes version of the story here. They are on the cruise and they are feeling some feelings, and Walsh is being super flirty with Graham, which also, who wouldn't? He sounds like he's gorgeous.
So dreamy.
And he's like so smart and charming too, and I'm just like, ooh. And so she's like getting her flirt on, and the whole time Henley's like steaming. She's fuming about it, and she's like, you ruin everything. I should not have brought you. Sisters are the worst. And it's just back and forth throughout the whole cruise. Basically, this will they, won't they end up getting together while they're on the cruise. slight spoiler, I guess. They do, sort of. And yeah, the yoga scene is so good.
It's so good.
At one point, they go on this hike to the beach to watch the sunrise, if I'm remembering correctly.
Maybe turtles too. There's a lot about turtles.
Yeah,
I did learn more about turtles than I thought I would going into the book.
It's true. That, again, not on the back cover. You heard it here first. You will learn about sea turtles.
Yeah.
They sound really cute.
I
want to see them. But they like take this sunrise hike to see the turtles at sunrise or whatever it is.
Or otters. There's also a lot of sea otters. Lots of nature.
Yeah, like sea lions. Lots of nature.
Sea lions. There you go.
And you find out later she was trying to distract Graham so that he gets distracted from his proposal. And that Henley will then get the promotion, which is very nice of her, kind of misguided, but very sweet.
I did guess that was what she was doing.
Yeah, I did too.
And I'm glad I guessed it because then I wasn't angry or frustrated with her.
Yeah, because you would have been.
Yeah.
And I loved her too much for that. And so one of her attempts to distract him is on this sunrise hike. She's like, well, yoga time. And she tears off her shirt and she has this cute little like sports bra moment on. And she starts doing yoga on the beach. And Graham starts taking pictures to post on the social media. And all the little old ladies on the cruise are like, we want to do that. And so they start doing yoga with her. It was so very cute. Just be still my heart. I loved all the little old people on the cruise.
They were adorable.
I know. Honorable mention goes to, what's his name, Nikolai?
Yeah, Nikolai. I'm probably mispronouncing the Russian there, but oh my gosh, he redeemed himself in the end, of course.
In the end, everything happens in the end. But this old Russian chiropractor is on this cruise with one of his friends. And he doesn't really play into the plot too much, so we won't go too deep, but
yeah, it's kind of comic relief.
Yeah, but he basically had just broken off his engagement. This was supposed to be his honeymoon, and so he did not get married, and so he came on the honeymoon with one of his guy friends instead, which love that journey for him.
Nice tie in there with the...
Right. But he spends the entire cruise just shamelessly flirting with Henley. And it's just so cute. It's like when little kids flirt to me for some reason. Just reading him flirting with her, I was like, oh my gosh, you're so cute.
Yeah, he was never threatening. It was never crossed a line. It was...
The dancing was a lot.
Well, the dancing was a lot. No, it was just, yeah.
But yeah, he was never, like you said, threatening. He never came off as dangerous. He's just like this little old man who was very lonely on his honeymoon and really wanted to get with Henley. And it was just so funny to me. So did you, I know you said you kind of were coming back to one scene that was close to the end. Did you have any like honorable mentions, favorite scenes that weren't tied into the end?
I think the whole book was a favorite scene. I did love when Graham talked about Thursdays being his favorite.
And
he looked forward because he got to see her on the Zoom. I loved that when they were on the boat.
So
I did love the yoga scene. I loved the scene where, and I'm forgetting her character, but the curmudgeon-y older woman on the cruise. Donna, who Graham charmed, of course, but hated Henley.
She was written in to be a Karen, basically, like a 70-year-old Karen on the cruise.
I loved when they did do the donations to help support the Galapagos Islands, that she was pro it. That was like her little moment of redemption. And that Henley was so worried that she was going to come complain, like, how dare you do this?
Yeah. And we're already on this cruise. Why are you asking us for more money?
And I love too that scene with when they were it was just a tiny little throwaway, but when she was talking to the retired teacher who had saved up for so many
Yeah.
years to be on
I
that
I kept really
cruise.
wanting her to come back in the book. I was really sad that she didn't.
Yeah, I would love to also hear her story, but I
Yeah.
really think that the author did a really great job at having that rom-com. You have the stuff you want from it.
Mhm.
She's also tackling some stuff in here. The
Mhm.
sexism. I mean, I want to get into Henley's previous experience at her work with her ex-boyfriend and how that helped shape
Yeah.
her reaction to Graham.
Go
The
ahead.
sec,
Yeah, I would love for you to
yeah.
talk about that.
So, long story short, Henley dated someone at her previous job
Who was a jerk?
who was just an absolute ass. And he threw her under the bus, and she got known as the girl who hooked up with somebody at work and felt like
And
she had
guess
no
who didn't
career.
get stuck with that?
Nothing on him.
Him.
Nothing on him. And I will add a little bit of personalness in here. My fiance, I actually met at work.
Oh, it's nice
So
when it works out. It's less
it
nice when
does.
when they're a
Um,
jerk.
he's a Graham. He's not a jerk. So which is
I
really
figured
funny
because you're
because
still engaged to him.
yes,
So
we're still engaged. But the fact that he was like high five, awesome job, and she had to basically change jobs in order to have any potential career progression that was not
yeah,
attached to her sexuality.
so gross.
So gross, but so actually true
Yeah.
in the world, and it's a reality. So I thought that was really interesting nuance, and that also shaped her hesitation to having a relationship with Graham because she wasn't just thinking about,
Even once she was like, "Oh my gosh, he's a great guy. Like he won't do anything
but what
terrible
about the
like this ex
environment?
did."
Yeah.
But yeah, and I made note of that too. The whole time her biggest, like I said, even once she's not worried about Graham being a jerk at all, her biggest like kind of taking a step back and being worried about this relationship is that she keeps saying, okay, but if we are in this relationship, I am the one that becomes the person sleeping with someone at work.
Yep.
That is
Not him.
never stuck with the guy. Like it's never, oh, but you slept with that one manager or you slept with that one secretary. So I don't know that we can trust you. It's the like getting high-fived in the break room versus getting the weird looks for quote unquote hooking up with someone at work,
Yep. I've
which is
seen
so
it
gross.
happen so many times. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I
And
have to.
I
I
really like I really liked how she carried that through. And that
mhm.
was, I mean,
Even in the
Henley,
end.
even in the end,
Yeah.
and that Henley didn't just fall in love and forget who she was and the fact that she is career driven and
Hmm.
that this was important to her. She didn't just get heart eye emoji for Graham and then forget everything.
Which would be
She
easy to do. Again, he
totally
is
easy to do.
dreamy.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, every industry, there's a version of you will be stuck based on your relationship with men, whether it's you are in a romantic relationship or oh you're this person's little sister, that's so cute, it's nice to meet you, or who your parents are, whatever. It's
Yeah.
so
It's
frustrating.
there. It's so frustrating. So I thought she tackled the whole sexism in the workplace so well
Hmm.
while keeping it true to the character. I
And
think she
keeping
had
it light too,
and keeping it
like
light.
you
Yeah, because
could
this is
tell
a
that it
rom
was
com.
important to her, but it wasn't, she wasn't like screaming about it
Yeah,
and making it uncomfortable for Henley.
of course, exactly. And it wasn't. She didn't put anyone on a pedestal. There was no great moment of like big monologue or anything. It flowed and it came together and
Yeah.
it peaked in a very natural way for me,
Yeah.
and a great way.
It
And
it was really good. I didn't feel like there were any parts of this story that I was like, that would not even remotely happen in real life. Which sometimes you read your A Court of Thorns and Roses, or you read your, whatever, like Bridgerton crazy stories that are just unrealistic, but you love that about them. But every once in a while, it's nice to read a book where there's a happy ending, but it's a happy ending that seems like it could happen.
Yeah.
A couple of my favorite scenes as we kind of go on through the story here. There is a scene when they are snorkeling, and this was just kind of an
Oh,
honorable
yes,
mention
yes,
for me, but it was
yes.
so cute. So, this scene had everything. So, she is afraid of the water, basically, and being submerged in water. This wine is giving me hiccups. Um, cut her off, she's drunk. Because of an incident when she was younger. And so it has him like being a rock for her and helping her feel comfortable. It has cute sea lions, like little baby sea lions underneath them. It has some tense moments because they see a shark and it's like, is it going to come
Yeah.
after us or is it going to swim away? We don't know. It has an almost first kiss. Like, it is, ooh, this scene had everything that I could possibly want in a scene. This is
It
the
was
one that
so
if
good.
this book was a movie,
I
this
was
would
just
be like
thinking about
one
it
of the
being a
main
movie.
scenes.
Yeah, it would be. Oh my God. Yeah, this needs to be made a movie. We have to start a campaign on that.
Okay.
Um,
I'm there.
I think it has to. I'm picturing it already.
We'll tag the author in it, be like, girl, we need you on this.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
great scene.
it's so good. And like I don't need to go too far into it, but it's just all those points are just they're so good and it was just really cute. What happened right after that, a little bit less cute. It was kind of sad. But that scene, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Um, and then the I have two more that aren't like I'm kind of considering the ending for the most part once they get off of the cruise. So I have two more that take place during the cruise.
Okay, good. Because my other one is post cruise.
Yeah. I think I can probably guess which one it is. And it might be if it's the one I'm thinking of, it's one of mine too. So just really quickly, the other two were they go to I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, but Floriana, which is a little island, and they go to the Post
Oh
Barrel.
yes.
Oh my gosh, this was another thing where my husband was like, "How are there not like 5 Hallmark movies written about this place?" And I
It's
looked it
real.
up. It's a real place. I was
Yeah.
not expecting it to be, and I was like tearing up reading about it on the Wikipedia page because I expected it to just be this really sweet, like made up moment for the book. But it's a real place, and I loved it so much. So basically, on this little island in the Galapagos, there is this old wooden barrel that originated from whaling and all of the sailors like coming and going. And people will like put letters and postcards and stuff in the barrel, and it's basically labeled as a post office without having to use postage. And so when you go, you can drop off your mail and you find a letter or two that is going somewhere near you, and they're all hand delivered.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
I
And it's like
melted.
makes me want to go there just so I can leave and
I
take a letter.
know. I told my husband we have to go there. I was like, the Galapagos has always sounded beautiful, so I would never have been against going. But I'm like, now I have to go because I need to go see this barrel and I need to deliver some mail.
Yeah.
Nothing would make me happier. So before I talk about my next scene, because this happens in between these two scenes, do you want to talk a little bit about what she ends up doing for her proposal and the donations and everything?
Yeah, so this was what was really surprising to me, was that she ended up doing a whole ecotourism pitch where they're getting donations from the cruise attendees, cruisers, to
Oh, cruise guests?
guests. Yeah, I guess guests makes sense. To
Maybe?
give
Yeah,
back
I don't know.
to the local environment to help sustain that. So she met with a team of scientists is the wrong word. I'm obviously showing my lack of ecological knowledge, but the
He was a
people
scientific researcher, I
researchers.
think.
So they were responsible for making sure that nothing is tainted in the Galapagos. Little throwaway scene was when Nikolai brought an apple onto a walk,
Mm-hmm.
and the tour guide was said, "No, no, 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 no! You can't bring any food from the cruise into the natural environment." So they really showed the need to
Which is something I
maintain.
never would have thought
Never would have
of.
thought of,
No.
and I feel like I learned so much about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her pitch, was that we can give back. We can do sustainable cruises that are contributing to the environment and research and growing the areas that we're going to. So it's not just fun and games, but it's giving back and it's making, it's cheesy, the world a better place, but it is. And
Yeah.
it was such a success on the first cruise that
Yeah,
she
I
wanted to
didn't write
then.
down the number, but the guests
It was
on
like
this cruise alone
20 people were
gave
giving
like
thousands of, yeah,
$2,100 or something. Yeah,
it was
crazy.
ridiculous. It was thousands and thousands of dollars. And then she wanted to take that and pivot it to their other areas with similar kind of geographical profiles. So looking at Hawaii, looking at Alaska, looking at how we can give back to those environments that are giving us this experience and this entertainment, but let's help them survive so that other
And
people
these places that aren't like anywhere else in the world.
nowhere
Like, if something
else.
happens to these places, there's nowhere else to get these experiences and see these animals or these plants.
Exactly. Like the fact that an apple showing up on an island could change its future, that's mind blowing.
Yeah,
It's reality, but something that we don't think about in North America very often. Like,
right.
it's very here and there.
Yeah,
And
it
then
was
she
really
wants
cool.
to,
I felt
yeah,
like this book was so much, I learned so much from it and took so much more away from it than a romantic comedy, which I was not expecting at all, and I
same with
really loved
me.
that about it.
Same with me. But it was the perfect balance. Like, she delivered it in such a great way where it felt natural to the story. It
Mhm.
wasn't in your face. It wasn't like, okay, and this is your very special moment now about what you need to be doing for the environment. This is your
Yeah.
very special moment
It
about
didn't feel like it was
sexism.
forced into the story at all.
Yeah.
It fit in perfectly with Henley and with her experience on the cruise and
Yeah.
all that. It just really seemed like it made sense, which I liked.
Me too. And one thing that I don't normally say when I'm looking at rom-coms, especially contemporary ones, is I'd actually love to know her research process, especially looking at the Galapagos.
Yeah.
And how she learned that. Like, did it come from personal experience, or was it just this idea? So I'd love to learn more. So Angie, if you're listening,
Right. Send
love
this
to
to her on
chat.
Instagram and be like, hey, we would love to pick your brain a little bit.
Tell
We'll
us
do a
more.
special part 2 episode. Come on and talk about research and also about the characters, specifically Graham. Also
And which
Walsh.
actor you see him being.
Right.
I'd love to know that.
Who is your dream cast for Graham? We would like to know and swoon a little bit.
I'm picturing Walsh as kind of a Blake Lively
That's who I
sort.
was picturing
Really?
too. Partially just because I love her and I want her
Love
to be in a
her.
lot of things. But
But
yeah,
that's
she
who I
just
was
seems so
picturing. Like,
perfect for it.
yeah, I think she'd be perfect.
And then the next scene that I wrote down actually has my favorite quote in it as well. So I'm going to do that and then we'll see if you wrote one down.
I
Um,
did, but mine is actually an early quote. Shocking.
oh, I love it. Well, do you want to do yours first?
Sure, let me just make sure that I'm quoting properly. So I just felt like this quote really encompassed Henley
Hmm.
to a T. So I went back and forth a lot. It was not easy, but I ended up with an earlier quote. So, all work and no play makes Henley a dull girl, or it makes her your boss.
I loved that. And that was, again, one of the moments that I fell in love with her because you could easily, in that situation, if someone's saying it about you, you could easily be like, haha, yeah, I don't get out much. I get it. But she immediately was like, or it means I'm going to get this promotion and you're going to be working under me. So you can stop being a dick to me now.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Such a nice little moment. I loved it. It was just, they had so many little moments of sassy banter like that. We
Love the
only like
banter.
briefly touched on it, but their discussion over the messenger, like way in the beginning. I don't remember what he sent her. Oh, it was soon, I think. She was like, I need you to post this thing. You were supposed to post it yesterday. And he was like, yep, soon. And she was like, okay, that's a really relative term. I'm going to need you to define that for me, thanks. And he sent the dictionary definition of soon. And he added an example at the bottom that said, when I get to it. And I was like, it was very good.
It was so good.
Yeah. That wasn't the quote I was talking about, but I just like, it was so good for me. I love a sassy banter. It's one of my favorite things in a rom-com. That's why
Love it.
enemies to lovers is one of my favorite tropes, because it just like really lends itself to that.
Yeah.
I loved it. So this scene, I don't know if you swooned as much as I did, but I was gone. And partially I was like, oh, this is something that my husband would have done, and this is super cute. And so I was like swooning in that aspect, but like I was tearing up a little bit reading the scene. So Walsh, being the firecracker that she is like, okay, so I talked to the cruise director and he agreed, and we're going to do a lip sync battle on the cruise. And this is when we were talking about the one moment that Nikolai may have kind of crossed a line a little bit. He decided to lip sync to Sexy and I Know It? What was it?
It was either I'm too sexy or I'm sexy and I know it. I don't know if it was like the Rod Stewart or the LMFAO. I feel like Rod Stewart seems more right. If you think I'm sexy, and I wanna.
It was upbeat though. Anyway, he does this like really sexual
grinding
song. I don't remember which one.
Sorry for anyone watching this.
Yeah, but he's like super inappropriately dancing at Henley at her table, and she's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. She's trying to sink into the couch, which was so funny. But
the next part is my second favorite scene.
After that, this was the main one that I wrote down that wasn't like the finale, basically. So Graham, who doesn't like talking in front of people, like he, I don't remember if he said it was like an anxiety thing or just like nervousness or whatever, but he doesn't like talking in front of people, decides to go up and lip sync to ABBA's Take a Chance on Me.
And I'm the biggest ABBA fan ever. I'll be honest, I've watched Mamma Mia in the past 7 days for the 20 millionth time.
I love Mamma Mia, and I'm not even ashamed. I loved the sequel. The sequel was so fun. I'm a fan. And he had been talking about his mom who passed away, and ABBA was her favorite. ABBA. Like, when he was remembering happy memories and was, like, telling Henley about her, that was one of the first things he said, was that she really loved ABBA. And so, already, like, so swoony. And then the quote that I wrote down is, she obviously was swooning also, because how would you not? How would you not? And she's in her inner monologue kind of talking about him, and she says, he channels the enthusiasm of Tom Cruise and the carnality of Patrick Swayze. He's Jake Ryan, Patrick Verona, and Clark Kent rolled into one. Which was so good. I loved it. Like, love Jake Ryan. 16 Candles is a little problematic at times, but like, just a little. But
Dirty
like
Dancing
Patrick
is my
Verona is, oof. We were talking about 10 Things I Hate About You last week because of how amazing it is and how perfect it is, honestly. And then Clark Kent with the dark hair and the chiseled features. I loved that quote so much.
So swoon-worthy.
Yeah, it doesn't really have anything to do with the plot, but yours was kind of about Henley, like, wrapping her up in a bow, and mine was kind of about So I'll take it.
Love it. Love this energy.
It was so good. Now I'm just thinking about it, and I love it so much. And now I want to watch Mamma Mia. I don't think my husband would go for that quite as easily as he would go for Clueless. But
The last time I watched it, Eric was not watching it with me, so I feel like I might have a Mamma Mia in.
it'd be good.
It'll be good.
I believe in you. And we should convince them to watch it tonight, and we'll like text each other, be like, "Oh my gosh, it's just so good."
Look at me now.
Well, I haven't learned. I don't know how.
I'll let you theater do this.
It's so good. Gosh, I want to do that show. It's so much fun.
I've seen it every time it comes to Toronto. I see it. So I've seen it 3 times live. And yes, I do get up at the end and I dance and I sing in the finale. You have to.
The last time that I saw it live was at like the big theater in Seattle. And sometimes it'll have like touring typecasts, but for the most part it's local but draws in really big names. And so the last time I saw Mamma Mia, I saw it with my mom, who somehow dragged my dad there. I don't know how that happened.
I took my dad for his birthday once.
Yeah, I mean, my mom and I love it. My dad is not the biggest fan. I'm not quite sure how he got talked into going to see Mamma Mia at the Fifth. But it was amazing. A person that I sort of know through theater, but is friends with my husband, was in it. But also, Sam, the one that marries Donna in the end, do you know the Cinderella with Brandy and Whitney Houston?
Yes.
The prince from that was in it, and my mom and I were like, oh my god. We like lost our shit. We had zero cool by the end of it. And we had a couple of drinks during intermission, so we were pleasantly tipsy.
As I do as well, especially Mamma Mia. I think when my dad and I probably did at least a bottle of wine before, and then wine there, and then wine at intermission. But Mamma Mia begs you to have a little
because it's a dance party, so you have to be just like not drunk, but pleasantly out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that this theater always has themed beverages.
Okay.
So you have to get at least one before the show to drink during Act 1 and one during intermission to drink during Act 2. We've taken a turn. But I love Mamma Mia so much.
I feel like we need to have a whole episode on Mamma Mia at this point.
I know. We'll do like a special
just us
episode
watching
around my
Mamma
birthday,
Mia.
just like, oh my gosh, do like a live watch of Mamma Mia.
I
am
stream.
so on board for this.
There's been times where like I'll get up the couch and I'll like move things around because I need my dance space.
Yes.
Okay, so back to Shipped, because
Anyway.
I could talk about musicals
been another
probably
sudden turn.
for
yeah, back to the
like don't
book
even
that
get
we're
me
talking
started
about.
on Rent or Hamilton or Chicago or
Yes.
oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, before we get back to the book, if anyone is down for like an Instagram live of us drinking wine and watching Mamma Mia, let us know, because now I want this very badly.
I mean, I think regardless of what the people say, it needs to happen.
I'm free next weekend. Anyway, this book was so good. Do you have any final thoughts before we go ham on the ending?
Let's go ham.
Okay, I'm ready. It was so good. So let's start with the Walsh stuff, because that happens before they get off the cruise.
And it's more serious, so let's
yeah. And then we'll get into the more. I mean, the stuff with their boss is really serious and shitty.
And can we talk about Barbara?
We will absolutely talk about Barbara. I love her so much.
I love her.
Okay. So just really quickly, Walsh finally by the end gets pretty drunk and is saying, you know, you don't have to worry about me crashing on your couch anymore. I'm moving back to Boulder and I'm getting back together with this guy that I was dating. And this whole trip, she has been getting some text messages from a contact labeled Bad News Bears, which did crack me up a little bit. Not like, don't answer or avoid this number. Bad News Bears. Just made me laugh. And Henley has been trying to kind of get information from Walsh about who is this? If they're bad news, why are you talking to them? And it turns out that it's this boyfriend from Boulder who is now saying things like, come back and all will be forgiven. Like, you don't have to be there, blah, blah, blah. And he's saying things like, I love you and I miss having you around. We will be happy if just, like, stop talking back to me. And, like, stop running away to Seattle. And
I'll
it was
take
so
care
gross.
of you.
Yeah.
You don't have to work. Oh, it was just, it's an abusive relationship.
Yeah. So it's already, you can tell, emotionally manipulative and abusive in that sense. But she does confide in her sister that it has started getting more physically abusive as well, which just broke my heart. And, oh gosh, heartbreaking. This honestly was even worse. They were talking about it, and Henley was like, oh my God, Walsh, like, why didn't you tell me about this? You could have come and stayed with me before now. Like, you need to not go back to this. Why is this the first time I'm hearing about it? And Walsh basically says, like, I can never get a hold of you. I wanted to tell you about it, but we really only ever text, and when we do, it's very short. Like, you're just so busy, and I didn't want to bother you. And it was just so hard.
Yeah, it was so hard.
And I loved it. I loved it so much. I only cried a little bit while I was reading it. Only a little bit.
Yeah, it was such a powerful moment. So powerful for Walsh and such a wake-up call for Henley.
Yeah. Which it really is. This moment basically turns things around for Henley.
But
Like, everything changes from this moment.
And I just said that it was a wake-up call for Henley, but I love that in the moment, it was about Walsh. It wasn't about Henley.
Yeah.
And the author let Walsh have that moment and her say, and oh yeah, all the feels.
It was so good. I know. And this, again, and later on, like at the very end, Henley shows Walsh a job listing for Walsh's dream job on these cruise ships. And I just would very much like a book about Walsh being a badass woman, exploring other relationships now that she's out of this one, and like living her best life on cruise ships.
I think it has to happen.
It'd be so good.
You're gonna hear from us.
I know. I'm gonna tag her in the post about this episode. Be like, hey girl, we have some questions. Join us.
Please.
Oh yeah. Oof, so good. So they get off the cruise, and she and Graham kind of had a falling out because he was in her room because things were happening, and then Nikolai, this sweet old man.
This is a little comedy of errors. It was so well done.
It was very that. Or almost like a Scooby-Doo chase scene where everyone's like coming and going from different doors. So he comes and knocks on her door and is crying and is like, I just really have feelings for you, but also I really miss my now ex-fiance and you kind of look like her. And so I figure if you and I get together, maybe I won't miss her as much. And so Henley lets him into her room and is basically like, Bud, you're very sweet. That's not going to happen. You need to go back to her and tell her how you feel. Maybe leave out the part about flirting with another woman the whole cruise. But everything else you should tell her. And I think that she will probably, like, not hate you afterwards. And it is against company policy for her to have this guest in her room. And the cruise director is knocking on her door. And so she shoves him in the bathroom where Graham is already hiding. And they're like, why is he here? Which was funny because it makes sense for Graham to be like, why the fuck is this guy being pushed into your bathroom? But at the same time, Nikolai is like, why is he here? And it's like, guy, you know that nothing was going to happen with you anyway. And so she lets the cruise director into her room and they're talking and it seems like nothing bad is going to happen from this moment. And then there's a noise in the bathroom and the cruise director, it's that moment in all of the movies where he's like reaching for the doorknob and it goes to slow motion. It's like, is he going to open it? And then Graham comes out and puts his arm around her and is like, hey, I'm here. We're sleeping together. Don't tell anyone. And she gets really mad at him. Obviously.
Because of the whole experience with her ex.
Yeah. And because the whole time he's been like, we can keep this as quiet as you want to. We can do whatever. I just want to see how things will go and where things will go with you. And we can keep it completely between us if you want to. And she basically says, yes, I would like that. Thank you. And then he ends up telling the cruise director, which I get it. It would have been that or him finding Nikolai in the bathroom, which could have lost her job. But yeah, and so they fight and they go their separate ways and it's very sad. And then the cruise is over and they aren't talking and the boss, the evil man, calls Henley into his office like a couple weeks later once the promotion was supposed to be decided. And she goes in and this time Graham is like, hey, James, before you talk, Henley, I'm on the phone. I would like you to know that. And she's like, I appreciate it. Hi.
Because James was trying to trick her again.
Yeah. Which is such a dick move. God, I hate this guy. Whew. The glass of wine is getting to me just enough to be like, I hate this so much. And so he basically says, yeah, great. I looked over both of your proposals. Graham, you got the promotion. And Henley, like 2 hours later or something, was supposed to have a meeting with him to officially and fully present her, whatever it's called. The word I can't think of. Yeah. Proposal. All I could think of was proposition. I'm like, it's not wrong, but it's also not right. And so she's like, oh my gosh, like I was supposed to be able to present this. What is happening? And he says something along the lines of, you were going to, but then I read it and it was so ridiculous or so dumb that I don't need to be presented it. Graham got the job. And Graham, to his credit, on the phone tries to be like, that is bullshit. If you have read her proposal, you know how good it is. Like, I only know about it, and I know how good it is. And so she congratulates Graham, and she walks out. And this is a scene that I loved so much. All of her work girlfriends follow her into the bathroom and basically, like, lock everyone else out. And they're like, girl, spill. What happened? And she tells them, and they are like, okay, how are you feeling? Are you sad? Are you upset? And she goes, I think I'm okay. I am happy for Graham, more so than I would have expected. He really wanted this job, and I'm happy for him. I'm not as sad as I expected, but I'm really angry. Yeah. And so they come up with this plan for her to, in 2 days or something, present it directly to the CEO and say, if James isn't going to give me a fighting chance with this, I'm going to take it above him, which I loved. Again, would not have had the balls to do that.
No.
And so they go that night and are at her apartment. And Walsh is there helping as well, and all of these super cool women, and like one of the women's wives is there too, who is
Are you
a
talking about
lawyer.
my favorite scene? What am I coming into my favorite part?
Yeah. Is it the girls or is it the Graham part?
It's both.
Both.
It's combined.
It's so good. So basically, they're all working on the proposal, and
They're
I will
working
let
on
you
the
take
proposal.
it
They're
from here.
kicking butt on it.
Yeah, kicking ass and taking
And
names.
Barbara, who is
So
the
good.
Dick's secretary, she's so on board. And she also, at this point, has she found out the metadata stuff?
Mm-mm.
Not yet. Okay.
It's the next day.
Next day. But Barbara's amazing, and we'll
Yeah.
talk more about her later. So there's this amazing group of women coming together to get this pitch together.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes a little bit comedic. Barbara leaves and keeps coming back because she
Yeah.
forgets things.
Which,
She
as
forgot
soon
her
as that started to
quote.
happen, I was like, this is going to happen a few times so that when the knock on the door
Yeah.
happens, she won't guess.
So then it's Graham at the door instead of Barbara.
Oh, it's so good.
So he's traveled to Seattle to see her and to make everything right. But what I loved the best was that he totally, the second he's there, he's like, I thought you might need my help. He's like, but you don't. Why would I have
Yeah.
thought that? You have this
I wrote
all
that down
sorted out.
too.
Like, that was
He
my moment.
brings her postcard that she had written on
The
this little
Galapagos.
island with the post barrel, which, first of all, so sweet. He apparently went back and was like, I need to find this, which love. But yeah, he says something along the lines of, I was going to deliver this later, but this seemed like the perfect time to do it. And he, at this point, has offered to turn down the promotion, and she has said no, and that she doesn't want it anymore. And he says, wow, I'm going to be fully honest. I thought that I'm knocking on the door. I was going to show up and kind of be
Save
the
the
knight
day.
in shining armor, and I was going to rescue you and save the day and whatever. And he goes, literally, why would I have thought that? Like, of course you have it handled. Of course you are
So
already
good.
working on it. And she goes, yeah, no, I am, but you're welcome to come in.
Yeah,
And
have some pizza.
oh, it was so good.
And then just like tiny little backstory, previous to this, she did find out that Graham is super qualified for this job.
And that he wants it so
he
badly.
wants it so badly. He has the skills. It's not just him being part of the bro culture. This is his passion.
Yeah.
And she also found out.
And it will help him move to Seattle because they're going to relocate him.
And she also found out that it wasn't her passion either. That her passion was the eco side. It was the CSR. So it all came together so well. It was like neither of them are giving up to get their ultimate ending.
Yeah. And I have to say, again, kind of where it's like, it's a happy ending that seems like it could happen in real life. I fully expected once, before the scene in the bathroom, once he gets the promotion, but before she like comes to terms with it, I fully expected that the happy ending would be he turned it down because he had gotten another job.
Yeah.
And she gets it by default. And I was a little worried that that was going to be the happy ending. And I was so glad that it wasn't.
Instead, she gets
so much better.
C-suite.
Oh my gosh. So let's get into that.
Okay.
So again, this meeting with the CEO is 2 days from the big promotion meeting. So the next day, she and Graham both take a personal day, spend some of it in bed, but then they're like gonna be getting her promotion all ready and getting this big presentation ready for the CEO. And Barbara, we stan, the badass that she is, calls and is like, girl, you need to get down here right now. I found some information, and it turns out that James has a meeting today at 1:00 with the board of executives, and he's going to present this idea as his. And he's been doing this with your ideas for 2 years. And she has proof. Which,
Data.
yeah, she got those receipts, and I love that. And so she looks at Graham and she tells him, and she looks at her sister who just came in the door, and they tell her. And she's like, I have to go. And they're both like, we have to go. And the three of them are like rushing to this office. They're helping her get ready. Her heel breaks running up the stairs.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And Walsh like throws her black slip-on tennis shoes at her, and she's like, run, I'll go. And she's like, I was picturing her running up the rest of the stairs with barefoot with the broken heels in her hands, which was so funny. But she makes it. She gets there 15 minutes before this jerk's meeting starts. And she gets in to talk to the CEO and presents this idea. And he's like, oh my gosh, are you reading my mind? Because I've been wanting to do something like this for years. And she goes, why, no, I'm not. I'm just very smart and accomplished and good at what I do. And she brings in her team because he asks if this was her idea. And she's going to give credit to them and all of the work that they did, which just shows how much better of a person she is than James, the dick boss. And it's amazing. And he's like, oh my gosh, you were giving credit and you came up with this amazing idea and you did so well leading the team and blah, blah, blah. Why didn't you take this to James? Like, this seems like something that you should have taken to him. And she goes, yeah, about that. I did. This was my proposal for the promotion that I didn't get. And he goes, I'm sorry. That does not make sense. Because when I talked to James, he said that your proposal was so bad it wasn't even worth talking about. And this is really good. And she goes, yeah, about that meeting that you have with him in 20 minutes, it's because he is going to present you this exact same thing, but minus all of the extra work that I did in the past 24 hours. And Barbara is there and able to show him all of the proof. And it turns out James had been doing it to another female employee before Henley got there, which just made it so much worse, too, that it's like a recurring thing. And he believes her and is like, I know exactly how to handle this. And
he's great.
Oh, he's so good.
Oh, and he lets James present it all first.
Yes.
And then
which
tear
was so
him
good.
apart.
I was worried that he was going to, as soon as he walked in, be like, you're a fool and here's why. But he doesn't. It's so much better.
So much better.
Yeah, so James comes in with his smug face and does the entire presentation, getting some of the numbers wrong and making it just about the money, not at all about how this could be such a good future for the company and how it would be doing so many good things for these places that they travel. And James, oh God, what's his name? The CEO sits back and he's like, wow, this is a really good, really well-researched idea. How did you come up with it? And James is like, I don't know. It was not in my brain. And then suddenly it was in my brain. And he lets him keep going for a few minutes, just like asking questions and letting him basically dig his own grave.
Because he gave him the chance to say, one of my team members came to me and pitched this fantastic idea.
Yeah.
He gave him the opportunity to redeem himself.
And he did not. Because he's an asshole.
The worst.
And so finally, the CEO is like, hey, so fun fact, I'm going to stop you right there. I know for a fact and have proof that this is not your idea. It's Henley's idea. And that you've been stealing her ideas and ideas from other like female members of your team that are working under you the entire time you've had this job. And so he says you are fired, effective immediately, if you go upstairs and pack your stuff right now. You can say that you resigned and you can get your severance package. But if we have to bring security in, you don't get any of that. And I was sitting back and I was like, yes,
security,
yes,
security.
yes, yes. I was really hoping they would call security. They didn't. I was really hoping, though.
I was hoping too. No, it was such a good moment.
It was. It was just so satisfying.
So satisfying.
Because those situations sadly happen in real life all the time, and they don't always have happy endings for the people whose ideas are being used. And it was so nice to watch it have a nice ending for Henley.
I loved it. And then what I also really love, so she gets her opportunity to be part of the C-suite in operations, which is what her true passion is. But what I really love...
Because he brings her into the meeting with the executive board and is like, okay, present the rest of your idea, please, because the way he did it was bad. And it turns out she looks at the clock when she's done, and it's been like a 2.5 hour meeting that she's been in here talking. And everyone's like, so she obviously is not being utilized to her full potential. We need to give her a promotion. What do we promote her to? And they're like, well, we could give her this promotion she just applied for. And you can tell she's going to be like, no, like, don't want that one. And this person on the board that she really looks up to is
the only woman on the board.
Yes. Who is also so cool.
So cool.
Is like, well, James had picked Graham for this promotion. And I actually really like him for it. And Henley's like, yes, you sure do. So do I. He's a good one. And then they're like, well, as of just a moment ago,
we have an opening.
We have an opening on the board of executives. And she's like, what?
What I loved so much about that, though, is that she got a trial role on it. They didn't just give her a C-suite role, like, here you go, awesome presentation, now you're part of the C-suite. But it was like, this is, like, 6 months, like, you have to prove yourself. Like, you still have to, like, work for it.
I want to say it was 18 months or something.
Or 18 months,
like, a year and a half.
Yeah, but it was that we're going to move you here, but this is still a trial.
You have to prove that you can do it.
You have to prove that you can do it, which just felt more real than, yay, you got the guy.
The happy ever after,
The happy ever after. It's like the happy ever after, but with reality.
Yeah, exactly.
And also what she would want. She wouldn't want a job just handed to her.
And that's the thing. She doesn't accept her dream job, on the spot. She makes a meeting with the CEO the following Monday to talk about specifics. And she is like, I will accept or decline the job at that point.
Yeah.
And she tells this to Walsh and Graham, and they're like you said what? I'm sorry. What?
And she talks to the awesome woman on the board whose name I'm forgetting, and I feel horrible because she was so kick-ass.
So yeah, she's so good.
It's just such a satisfying ending.
Yeah.
And then
because she's like, we need another woman on the board, and if you come and meet with me before you meet with him, I will give you all of the tips and tricks and the inside scoop.
And she won't go without her crew. But again, that's another way of reality. She's like, I know I can't get my amazing friend in finance because that's her role. But I want someone just as good.
She can't be spared there. But I want someone as passionate as her.
As passionate. And Barbara.
And Barbara! Because you find out when you're talking to Barbara, I don't remember if it's right, like, before the scene in the bathroom where they're all rallying around her, or if it's when they're like, let's go to your place tonight, and Barbara's like, I'm in. But at some point, Henley is like, Barbara, why are you doing this for me? And in her head, like her inner monologue, she's like, Barbara and I are friendly, but we have never necessarily been friends. Like, we don't hang out outside of work and, blah, blah, blah. And Barbara says something about, you remind me of how I had expected to be and always wanted to be before marriage and kids and ending up as a secretary and all of this. And she basically says, like, because Henley says, why don't you go back to school? And she says, well, I'm happy with my life where I am for right now. But you do not have to be. And you can still, like, break the glass ceilings and do all of the things that you want to do. And it's so good.
So good. And Barbara is doing that. Like, she would not have had that meeting with the CEO without Barbara and Barbara's
She makes
connections.
all of the meetings, and she is one of the ones that is able to get in touch with IT. And she's just like, she has all of those, like, treks to all the important people. It's so good.
Love her. So we were obviously very much on the same page about this book.
Yes. We both hated it, from what I can tell.
Awful.
It's the worst. Don't read it. Please read it. It's so good.
So good.
Oh, it's so good.
And it needs to be a movie.
So badly. And I really need that. I keep wanting to say Henley. I really need that Walsh book.
Yeah.
I need about 5 Hallmark movies about the Post Barrel. Thanks. They don't even have to all be sequels or like a part of the same series, but Hallmark, if you're listening, whatever. We need this as a setting, please. It'd be perfect. Just so good. Did you have any other thoughts that we didn't get to?
I think we captured most of them for me. This book just made my heart happy. It brought a smile to my face. It took me out of the real world right now, but also had reality, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but it just, I'll end with
better reality.
It brought a smile to my face and made me happy, and I have no nitpicky things to say about it. It just is a darn good read, and you should read it. People out
Absolutely. I agree. I don't have anything that I would say where it's like, I really loved this book. I only wish there was more of this. Or I only wish maybe this was a shorter portion, or this was gone deeper into. I don't have any of that.
No.
This book was so good and so much fun. And yeah, everyone should read it.
It's going to lift your mood up, and it's going to make you smile. It's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you think, which is a good thing in the context of this book, because you have that amazing resolution at the end.
Yeah, you will learn things from it, and
Learn
you will
so
get to
much
hang
about
out
nature.
with some badass ladies while you read it. And it's just, 10 out of 10.
And I'm confident that the way Walsh's story was left was done on purpose, because there will be a Walsh book.
I'm feeling pretty good about it, but I need it. Everyone, message the author. Tell her we need it. Oh, gosh. It was so good. This was such a good pick. This was one that was on my list anyway, but with my reading schedule lately, who knows when I would have gotten to it.
Right.
So, thank you.
I'll say
I owe
thank
you a
you
debt
to
of gratitude.
I'll say thank you to Leslie Showbiz Reads. She was the one
she's the
who told me I needed to read it, so I did. So thank you, Leslie, for putting this on my plate, and then for us to get to read it together. It's such a fun one to read with somebody too.
It was. I feel like it's so much better for getting to talk about it. You know, I feel like reviews, you're talking about it, but you're talking to yourself. Getting to have a two-sided conversation, especially talking to a girlfriend about one like this, where the group of girls was such a big and important part of the book.
Totally.
So good.
Yeah,
and
so much girl power.
Yes. Women are the best. Like, support each other, be kind to each other. Magical things happen.
Boost each other up.
Women stick together. Yeah.
Especially
seriously.
in the workplace. I feel like that's another strong message from the book. I do have something else to say. Of course. No, it's that they succeeded by helping each other, not by pushing each other down, and not by competing.
Being in competition of each other.
Yeah, they succeeded and they grew and they progressed by helping each other, which is, I think, a reminder everyone needs.
Yeah.
And as a
I mean,
boss,
from birth, women are put in competition with each other,
totally,
whether they want to be or not. And it's, it sucks. And it is, to a certain extent, for men competing with each other as well. But I think it just societally is so much stronger towards women.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to try and break out of that. I'm still guilty of it. I'm trying really hard, but it's just so ingrained. But yeah, if you can just like be good to each other instead of being in competition and trying to one up each other, it's so much better. You get so much more out of life.
Totally.
Well, we need to schedule when we are going to
Mamma Mia.
Yeah, live stream drunk watch Mamma Mia, because I want this very badly.
I'm in lockdown for a minimum of 2 more weeks, probably forever. I feel like the meme in Titanic, it's been 84 years.
I quote that to my husband out of context all the time. I'm like, it's been 84 years.
So I have lots of time to Mamma Mia it up. It's going to happen.
Excellent. Next couple weeks, it will be all over the stories. We're going to Instagram live. It's going to be amazing. In the meantime,
I may even theme dress.
Oh my gosh, yes. I will wear my overalls, and I kind of have my Donna hair going on today, actually. It's a little wild. I had it in braids yesterday. I used to do that all the time when it was longer, and it looked so much less like Tarzan when it was longer.
No, I love your hair.
Thank you. But yeah, we will absolutely. Now I'll just have to choose if I'm gonna like go overalls and go Donna-esque, or if I'm gonna go like Sophie.
I think I might do Sophie.
Okay.
I do have shorteralls though. I don't have overalls, but I have shorteralls.
Oh my god, this is gonna be so good. I'm so excited. Do you want to just pick a day? Because I really want to do this.
I 100%. I'm totally in. Like, no questions asked.
Do you want to do like a weekend, or do you want to do
a weekend? I want a weekend wine consumption for this to do it properly.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see. I have multiple book club discussions. I want to say next weekend, on Saturday. So, do you want to do like Sunday, or we could do the following weekend on Saturday?
Let's do the following weekend Saturday.
Deal.
We'll drop that date in the notes.
Put my wine down. That is.
It's like the 8th or something.
Oh my gosh.
Like that.
Do things. My computer's not about it. It is the 6th.
Okay, well, not the 8th. The 6th. Done.
All right, everyone. The 6th. We are on Instagram, and we will get real tipsy. There will probably be singing along.
I can guarantee it.
Probably some dancing. Oh, it's going to be so embarrassing, and I'm going to love it.
I'm really excited.
It's going to be in the show notes. Y'all better be there, because I'm very excited. And if we're just doing it for us and, like,
I'm
my
still
mom,
okay with that.
It'll be fine. My mom will watch along, and she'll, like, dance with us, probably. Oh, my gosh. I love it. In the meantime, do you want to tell people where they can follow you?
Absolutely. So I am Arianna.reads on Instagram. The spelling will be in the show notes. It's not like Ariana Grande. I came before her. And I would love to chat about Shipped and any other books with all of you. And thank you for listening.
And join her book club. That's going to be in the show notes.
I didn't talk about anything Canadian today. That's so weird.
So weird. It's cool. We hit it pretty hard last week.
We did. So. But this fantastic scrunchie, I'm just going to do one shout out, is from Antler and Acre, a female-owned small business based out of BC in Canada. And they're my absolute favorite scrunchies.
I love it. I always need a good
fantastic.
Scrunchie.
Such good quality. Check them out.
I will. And like she said, as always, her information is going to be down in the show notes. Give her a follow. Talk books. She's lovely. Follow her to get ready for Mamma Mia, I guess.
Any musical, message me about any musical.
Oh my gosh, yes. Hard same. I will rant about musical theater for hours. And as for the podcast itself, as always, you can email me at thesamepagepod@gmail.com. If you have any questions, collaboration requests, if you've read any of the upcoming books and you have discussion points you'd like included, please send me an email, let me know. Send me a message on Instagram. I would love for you guys to be a part of the discussions with my guests and I. As for me specifically, separately from the pod, you can find my blog that houses all of my reviews, tours, all that jazz at tacklingtbr.home.blog and on Instagram at tackling_TBR. And for the podcast, you can find and connect with us on Instagram at The Same Page Podcast, on Twitter at The Same Page Pod, and you can find us on both Facebook and YouTube just by searching for The Same Page Podcast. And as always, last thing I'm going to say, if you guys are listening to the episodes and like what you hear, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you decided to go into Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is you're listening, and subscribe, leaving a positive rating, and even leaving your thoughts in a review, it would mean the world. It only takes a minute or two, but it really helps small shows get introduced to more bookish folks. And with that, I will be back next week with a new guest, so I'm very excited. But Arianna, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
So much fun. I can't wait to hear what's going to happen next week. You have
Me too. We'll see.
No, it's been a blast, and thank you so much for having me and for putting this
Come
out
back
there.
anytime.
Oh, I will.
Send me your next big, exciting Canadian read, and
Definitely.
I'll grab it and we'll talk about it.
Love it. Thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.